Hello there, guys. I'm doing a bit of testing right now as I switch some settings of my microphone, so hopefully this is going to be okay for you guys. Thank you very much. Hello there and welcome to the Miami Grand Prix here in Delta T Racing. My name is Phoebe Thomas and today we are going to be having a short qualifying and a 50% race here around Miami. The best of the best will take it to track in order to crown themselves champion or winner here in Miami. Benny Buno has got a big gap to the other drivers in the Drivers' Championship, about 49 points on P2. I'm not even sure if it's Benny Buno. I think it is Brandon. It is Brandon who's got the championship lead for now. Brandon with 49 points on Benny Buno. Stewart apparently will be using his very own Joker tonight, but he has been pushed down all the way to P10. He did win last week in Azerbaijan with an excellent race by the Alpine driver, but he's all the way in P10 with 47 points. So that is not something to get too excited about. The top three consists of Brandon, Benny Buno, and Reliot. Reliot, the Kick Sauber driver, currently in the session. No, he's not. He's not even in the session. He's not going to be defending his top three position. But neither is Gunnar, because Gunnar is not in the lobby either. Both Kick Sauber drivers dropped out of the session. And they're currently in P2 in the constructors. So Mercedes will be strengthening their position even further as they're 36 points ahead of Kick Sauber. McLaren could be looking at a decent scoring position today as both Benny Buno and Hammers UK are in the lobby. They're currently in P3 in the constructors and they're looking to get P2 in that Constructors Championship at the end of the season. We're currently in the penultimate race here around Miami, and it seems like it's raining. It's pouring down rain at the moment here in the United States, as obviously Miami is laying in the United States. I've been to Miami myself a couple of times already. It's absolutely lovely when the weather is okay, but when it's raining, I wouldn't suggest you going there. Alligators walking all over the streets. And you might be seeing an alligator here tonight in Miami on the racing track as we're close to the Hard Rock Cafe. As the Hard Rock Cafe finds himself in the Hard Rock Stadium, where, if I'm not mistaken, the Miami Dolphins play. It's the American football team of Miami. And they're not too excellent of a team, as I'm afraid they're all the way at the bottom of the standings every now and then. So let's see if the Miami Dolphins are going to be doing better this season. But that's not what we're focusing on today, as Formula 1 racing cars are currently racing around the Miami International Circuit. As unfortunately, that is a track that, well, consists of actually street racing. So it's a street track. There's not a real circuit there in Miami. As we're currently on board with Brandon, the Mercedes driver, currently in the championship lead, going into turn 1, hard braking zone to your right. It's a very tricky start of the Grand Prix as well, as a lot of guys are shoving it down the inside every now and then. Brandon coming into sector 2 as soon as he's out of these S's. And it kind of reminds me of Megats and Bagats or Suzuka. As Suzuka in Sector 2, if I'm not mistaken, also has these S's. No, it's Sector 1. Also has these S's. I mean, the Miami Grand Prix S's are a little bit tricky because there's not much traction in those S's. So every now and then you do tend to see a car in the wall. But apparently that is not suitable for Brandon, currently on a fast lap as we speak, heading into Sector 3. Hard braking zone to the right, and then we've got turn 10 coming right up. A lot of moves are being made here. Down the inside, you can easily shove it and force your way down the inside there in turn 10. Heading into turn 11 and 12. Very tricky corner section, a lot of curb on the inside. Make sure you don't take that sausage curb in turn 12, because your car will be shot into the wall. Down the straight we go. DRS wide open for Brandon, although the DRS will not be available when it is raining. Make sure you know that for the actual race as well. As Brandon, the British driver, is currently coming down the line. Last corner to tackle for the Mercedes driver. And what time will it be? Evan already coming across the line. He was very strong last week in the one-shot qualifying of the sprint race. And let's see whether Brandon is going to beat that time. Apparently not. He's 2/10 down, but the grid is once again very competitive here in Miami. As Megan, one of the not necessarily title contenders there as well, but he was doing a pretty decent... Oh, Hackett coming across the line. What a lap from the Williams driver. Usually not up there with the top guys, but currently at 137.9 for the Williams driver. Maybe Megan will be able to do something about that as he's coming down the straight. Used all of his DRS already, so there might be a trouble coming around the last corner. Kenji and Magic Poop Cannon both coming across the line as well. Skipper with a 138.4. And what time will it be for Megan? A 138.5. Once again, a really, really close grid here for the guys. Lap data is very important as Romero now puts himself on pole position for now. Still 12 more minutes in this qualifying session, with plenty of time left for the guys to come back into the pits, put on some new intermediates, and then go out on track again. Let's see whether everyone is on the intermediates at the moment. Apparently everyone is, except for Benny Buno. He is starting on the medium tires. As I wouldn't suggest you going out on the medium tires here in this condition. Zetterval, one of the two Swedish drivers here on track, and maybe they have a lot of rain, and that might explain why they are so good in the rain. But Romero currently in a pole position, the second Swedish driver, and let's see where Zetterval is going to put himself on the grid today. Plenty of time for Zetterval to come back into the pits as well. The Swedish driver, who has been performing really well in qualifyings, but not necessarily in the races, has been a little bit unlucky in the last couple of races. But let's see where he's going to place himself right now. Only a P8. So my theory about the Swedish drivers being good in the wet weather isn't necessarily great. We might want to go on board with Hammers UK as well, as he's coming into the first corner. And watch out for the curb on the insides there. You might not want to touch them, but you don't want to touch the throttle too soon either going into those corner sections, especially when it's wet and slidey there, because there's a lot of rubber on track. And it seems like Hammersuke doesn't necessarily have his setup right either, as he seems to be struggling coming around all corners. And another Williams driver right behind him, that might be Barry Bogarowski. Although Barry is coming around the last corner as we speak. He's going to put a time on the board. And it seems like a great time for the Williams driver as well, right behind his teammate, right ahead of Evan M02. He's going to be racing in the Red Bull team today. But it seems like the drivers who are usually at the back of the grid are currently at some decent positions. I mean, Romero hasn't been performing really well lately in the races and currently in pole position. Hackett, Barry, Skipper, all those guys, not necessarily great drivers during the dry, but today they are here to prove that they can actually race against the big guys. And I'm pretty sure Barry is very happy with that time, but Evan puts an exclamation mark on that lap, a 137.6, as he's only improving by 300s on Mr. Romero's time. Brandon coming across the line right now, and here are the big guns of 137.2 for Brandon. So you might want to go on board with Hammersuke coming across the line, putting a P7 for the McLaren team. Not a bad time at all. Stewart has already retired from the session. As I said, he will be using his Joker. And for the guys who don't know what a Joker is here in Delta T Racing, it's basically whenever you don't qualify, you start from last place, but your points will be counted double. So every driver needs to use their Joker within a season. And I think a driver has 3 or 4 Jokers, if I'm not mistaken. But you do have to use at least one. So Stewart hadn't used his yet. I don't think Miyagi has either, so he won't be using it today. He's going to have to use it next week. But let's say he's not going to be there next week. He is going to get disqualified from the season. So that is something to take with you going into the last race of the season there. Zetterval just got pushed back to P12. And if I'm not mistaken, Benny Buno might be using his Joker here tonight as well. So we might want to go on board with Romero again. There seemed to be yellow flags earlier. Now that issue has been resolved. Oh, and we're back to yellow flags, and that's the Haas driver down the straight in Sector 2. And Benny Buno in the chat says, "Come on, Hammers." And that is exactly what we would like to see from a teammate like Benny Buno. I'm not sure what happened to Kenji. Probably spun out, didn't have too much traction. Coming down the straight, a little bend here to the right. You might be losing your car, going into the wall, and then of course you're going to be out of the qualifying session. But he's going to be back for the race. Whether it's going to be P7, that is a big question mark. But right now 138.1, not necessarily a great time. Romero coming across the line with a 136.6 now, as the Ferrari driver once again puts himself on pole position. Zetterval also... Wait, no, it was Zetterval who came across the line. Romero had already put the fastest lap. But a 137.3 for the Ferrari driver. A great lap once again by Zetterval here tonight. And the Swedish boys have got something in their backs. I don't know what it is, but they're going to be proving that they actually can race against the big guns. But also Maggot, hopefully, is going to stay in P5. The Alpine driver has had an interesting season here in season 11. I'm just going to double check with you guys that he's going to prove that he can actually do it. He has 2 race wins already. But then on the other hand, he's been really inconsistent with the other days. He had a P12 in Mexico, a DNF in Italy. Then he had a P12 in Belgium, a P5 in Saudi Arabia. He had 3 podiums, being 2 wins and 1 P3. And then he didn't participate in 2 races, so that makes him P5 at the moment in the Drivers' Championship. Maybe he's going to be able to do a little bit better here tonight in Miami compared to his Mexico or his Belgian Grand Prix. Who else are we thinking about? Both the Red Bull drivers once again not there next, and let me just double think. Daniel, both not there. Unfortunately, they have been having a pretty decent season, but unfortunately, Daniel hasn't been having the results they hoped for. Neither have they been really consistent in like participating and stuff. So let's see whether they're going to be there for the end of the season. Sandoval hasn't been there very consistently either, but he is still in P8 in the Drivers' Championship. He's only participated in 5 races over a period of 10 races, so he's done 50% of the races. On the other hand, you've got Stewart, who DNF'd in 3 races. Who else DNF'd quite a bit? Mr. Hammers UK DNF'd in 4 races, and I think that is the most DNFs in a season for the McLaren driver and anyone in general here in Season 11. The driver who took part in all races is Skipper, and he's the only one who actually took part in all races, so congratulations. Oh, Hammers apparently as well. Hammers UK as well, and last race of the season will be Japan. So that is going to be the season ender. In my opinion, a really beautiful track where a lot of beautiful racing can happen. So hopefully we will be seeing that as well here in Delta Tier Racing. But first we need to tackle Miami. 5 more minutes in this qualifying session with Maggot currently on pole position at 136.4 by the Alpine driver. And you never know, maybe he will be able to put himself at the front of the starting grid. Skipper got pushed back to P12 as he's coming across the line right now. A P3 by the Dutch driver, 136.7. Really flying around these corners here in Miami, and what a lap. Hammers UK also pushed the throttle quite a bit. P4 for the McLaren drivers. There's a lot of drivers who I did not expect to be in the top 5, who are currently in the top 5. There's only 2 drivers who I would have expected to be in the top 5. That's Brandon and Maggot. Romero, Skipper, Hammers UK, Zedoval even in the top 6. I didn't expect that at all. Although he does have decent qualifying pace, he's not really consistent over a season length. Evan got pushed back to P8, so maybe we want to see a better time from the Red Bull driver there as well. But the closer we get to the end of the qualifying, the faster the laps will get. Because the track dries up, you can already see dry lines on the track as well. And that might explain why Skipper had put the best lap or the 3rd best lap on track today. You can see it there. A line where there's no rain at all. The Mercedes driver on the fast one, that will be Brandon, as his very own teammate is not present here in Miami tonight. And here comes Brandon coming through a turn 10. A lot of curb taken down the inside and a really dry line there into turn 10 that will give a little bit more traction coming into turn 11 and 12. Beautifully done by Brandon. Oh, almost loses the car, but I think he did that to rotate better into turn 14. Coming down the straight right now, DRS will not be available for the Mercedes driver. He's got the fastest second sector. But how fast will sector 3 be? Evan coming across the line with a 136.1. Currently on pole position. But Magic Poop Cannon, what a lap by the Red Bull driver. Red Bull is currently P1 and P2. Starting from the front row here tonight in Miami. But Brandon will definitely do something about that. And that's exactly what I expected Brandon to do. 135.2. Beat Magic Poops Cannon time by about 5/10 as Hackett coming across the line right now. Do the drivers have enough time to come across the line, come back into the pits, come out of the pits again, and then put on a new, well, better tire? It's just a matter of who gets out of the pit lane latest and gets across the line will have the fastest lap, and I'm afraid that won't be Mr. Miyagi, as he won't have enough time to come back into the pits. Maybe the guys will stay out on this tire as well, because I'm afraid that Mr. Brandon is not going to be having time to come into the pits either. I'm afraid that he's going to have to go for another lap on these tires, and then it might be interesting to go and choose the wet line right now to cool down your tires, but Brandon chooses to stay on the dry line, which makes them tires a little bit heated up, which is obviously not ideal for a qualifying lap. Yes, we might want to go on board with Maggot currently on an outlap, so he has come out on new tires. He could be one of the main contenders for pole position here tonight. Evan got pushed back to P5. Magic Poop Cannon, who a minute ago had a pole position, right now in P4, 135.7. It's not looking great for those two, as everyone is going a little bit slower. Here comes Romero with a 135.2. Maggot is going to go for another one, coming down the straight as we speak, as the Mercedes driver is going to be right up his tail. Romero only beat Brandon's time by 0.02 of a second. And what a qualifying this is already. It's getting really exciting. And Megid is going to go into P8. He's been pushed to P8 already, so he really needs to improve a little bit. And let's see whether our theory of being on a fast tire at the end of the qualifying is better than being on the intermediates at the beginning of the qualifying. Obviously it is, because everyone who had put a lap already improved on his very own time, and drivers like Romero currently in pole position. How much time is Megid improving by? 1.4 seconds, and that's currently good enough for a P7. So he needs to improve a little bit more here in Sector 2 and Sector 3. And Sector 2 is the main sector where you're going to want to gain a bit of time, especially with the amount of corners into turn 10. Dry line seems to be perfectly placed for Megid. And coming down these sausage curbs, a lot of curb taken there. It's because you don't necessarily take too much speed because it's raining. As Evan now comes across the line, 135.1 on old intermediates. So whoever is on fresh intermediates might be putting a better time on the board. Megid coming down the straight, and he's going to be the first one coming across the line. Will it be a better lap for the Alpine driver? I'm afraid it will be. But will it be good enough for a pole position? Here comes Megid. Here comes the Alpine driver across the line, and it's going to be pole time by more than 8/10. Brandon only a 135.1. Megid has stippled out the perfect strategy. Hackett now with a P2. What a result for the Williams drivers. Zedeval had invalidated his lap, so it won't be an improvement. Maybe Skipper, he is too far back. It won't be a pole time for Skipper either. Hammers UK has not been improving in Sector 1 and Sector 2. And what is Evan going to do? Is he going to be slower? It appears like he is. He's backed out of this qualifying lap. Yellow flag in Sector 2. That's going to be the Ferrari driver. And Evan just got the corner. He knew that he wasn't going to get there in pole position. But Megid, what a qualifying lap from the Alpine driver. Currently putting himself in P1, and he's going to stay there until the start of the Grand Prix. But then, of course, Miami, a very tricky track to get started on. He's going to be starting from the inside line, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to have to take a look at that as the Ferrari driver is now chasing Mr. Evan, as Evan still needs to come across the line. We want to have a quick look where the driver starts, but if I'm not mistaken, he starts from the inside. That's really where you want to be here around Miami, as you can shove it down the inside or defend the inside line. Obviously, drivers in P2 and P3 want to try to go down the inside, but I guess that's to be continued in the actual 50% race. Evan, who just came across the line, 27 seconds slower than his fastest lap, and it will be good enough for a P4. So this is going to be the Formula 1 Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix, and these are the results of the 18-minute short qualifying. Megid takes pole position for Alpine with a gap of about 7/10. Hackett, a surprising P2 for the Williams driver. And then we've got Brandon, who is going to finish off the top three. Further, we've got Evan, Romero, Miyagi, Berry, Magic Boop Cannon, Hammers UK, Skipper, Zedeval, Kenji, Benny Buno, and Stewart all the way at the back of the grid. Two drivers apparently used their Joker, so they're going to be starting from the back of the grid. Two drivers who I think can actually win this Grand Prix starting from the back of the grid. We've seen Benny Buno do some crazy stuff, but also Stewart, who got a race win last week. Can he continue the streak going into Miami and then hopefully Japan as well to climb up the ladder, or will Benny Buno stand in the way of the Alpine driver? What we do know is that the other Alpine driver, Megid, is going to try to win this race from a pole position tonight. It's going to be a dry weather as well, so let's see what strategy the guys will use going into this 50% race. Most likely it will be a medium-hard strategy, as the soft tires are not necessarily great, as they lose traction really quickly, and you don't want to go on those tires either. I will be back in a second once we are getting going in this formation lap. I'm just going to let my throat rest a bit, as I will have to talk about 45 minutes straight. I will be right back, guys. And we're back at it again, guys. Welcome back to the Miami Grand Prix. Here are the tire strategies for tonight's race. Meggett, Hackett, Brandon Evan, Romero Miyagi, Barry Magic Poop Cannon, Hammers UK, and Skipper all starting in the top 10. And all of them are going to be starting on the medium tires. So not a surprise there. Zetterval is the only driver together with Stewart starting on the hard tires. They're going to try and stretch those hard tires till the end of the race. AWS themselves are suggesting a medium hard or a medium hard strategy. I wouldn't go for a two-stopper only if there is a safety car. Now the chances of that happening around Miami is quite high. So hopefully we're not going to be having too many safety cars as, well, we don't want to be having any chaotic races, of course. We don't want the safety car to ruin the battle, ruin the strategy, and ruin the races of anyone. So everyone is going to put their cars on the starting grid as we speak. The engines are going to be cooling off a little bit, but the tires as well. So make sure you're going to be on that starting grid as late as possible. All the drivers have found their starting position. And guys, we are ready to start this Miami Grand Prix here in Delta T Racing. It's season 11, round 11 of the Delta T Racing League. It's 5 red lights here around Miami. Meggett starting in pole position, but will he stay there? It's 5 red lights and away we go. Hackett down the inside. Is he going to shove it down the inside? Apparently he is, but he's not side by side with the Alpine driver. So Meggett keeps his position. The Mercedes driver is looking to find his way around Meggett, but backs out of it. Evan stays in P4 as well. Position change wise, we're looking at a position switch between Magic Poopkin in P7 and Barry Bogorowski in P8. As both the Red Bull driver and Magic Poop Cannon. No, it's Barry Bogorowski are going side by side. Now the McLaren drivers are having the battle as Stewart tried to shove it down the inside. Backs out of it. There's a McLaren wall there right ahead of the Alpine driver, and he's going to have to back out. Zetterval dropped back to P14. As Romero is in a heated battle, there's damage as well. Miyagi around the outside. Romero can give up the position though. Has the outside line, not necessarily the preferable position to be in, but Romero keeps P5 as around sector 2, really difficult to defend your position through that sector. As Meggett is currently running away from Hackett. Down the straight they go. Hackett not necessarily close enough to use that DRS yet. The DRS hasn't been available either. But going into lap 2, they're going to be able to use the DRS, but they need to be within 1 second of the driver ahead of them. As Hammers UK just lost the position to Barry Bogorowski. Has the inside line right now. Down the straight they go. Will he be able to keep that position? Apparently he will. With Meggett currently having the fastest lap. And Hammers UK doesn't necessarily have to hold up Benny Buno. Benny Buno's still in a championship battle. He wants those maximum points compared to Brandon, who's currently in P3. And he's going to be scoring double points here as well tonight. So he just needs to get a decent position in this Miami Grand Prix, and I'm pretty sure he will be able to. He just needs to push the limits a little bit further. The Alpine driver, no, the Williams driver is currently running away from Hammers UK, so maybe it's time for Hammers to think about letting his teammate go through. Evan now taking a position from Brandon, and that is good news for Benny Buno, obviously. Oh, and the Red Bull driver goes into the back of Hackett. Watch out. Brake on time, Mr. Evan. I know you're listening. Coming through sector 2, the guys don't want to touch that sausage curb too often because your tires will be wearing out as well as you will be losing a bit of time and traction. So it's a bigger risk of crashing out there. Brandon now down the straight, DRS wide open, but everyone in a DRS train at the moment. Nobody seems to be having any advantage compared to the other drivers, as Magic Poop Cannon is looking to make an overtake on Stewart. Stewart has already gained 5 positions so far. Great race as Benny Buno dropped back to P11. Not great, might have made a little mistake there. right behind his teammate. Let's go on board with Barry Bogarowski on the tail of Mr. Miyagi, as the Greek driver has been showing some excellence throughout the season, but also some very inconsistency, as every now and then he had a bad race out of the top 10, but then on the other hand he might have had a podium or a top 5 position. So let's see whether it will be consistency and excellence or inconsistency and a crash into the wall for the Greek driver. Down the straight goes Barry, a position he hasn't been in for a long time, P7, and he might be looking at a P6 as well if he can overtake the Greek driver. But there's still plenty of racing to go on. 26 laps left in this Grand Prix. It's a 50% race and a little lockup there by the Greek driver. This might give the opportunity for Barry to make that overtake down the straight. Mr. Miyagi also doesn't have the DRS coming down the straight. Barry might have cut the corner there. Was that his first track warning? Down the straight goes the Dutch driver. And will it be enough? Maybe a little bit of ERS usage for Barry can do wonders, as the DRS is going wide open for Barry Bogarowski. Down the straight he goes. He's looking to go down the inside, but he backs out of it. Not necessarily too much of an advantage he got there. Only gained about 2/10 on the Greek driver, as we might want to go on board with Benny Buno right up that ass of Stewart, who's already got a 3-second time penalty. Magic Poop Cannon now looking to make an overtake on Benny Buno. I think Benny made that overtake with the use of DRS down the straight. Skipper dropped back to P14. I'm afraid the Dutch driver didn't necessarily stipple out his qualifying too well, as he only qualified in P10. He had the possibilities of qualifying in the top 5. Romero, with another mistake from a decent position, dropped 3 positions. Oh, look at that move from Stewart down the inside. Will he be able to keep that position? Apparently not, as Romero with a beautiful defense on the Alpine driver. Now Stewart will have the DRS coming down these S's. I mean, it's not necessarily an S, it's a really weird bended S. Here comes Stewart around the outside. Who's going to come out ahead? Apparently Stewart with that DRS. Will Benny Buno be able to benefit from that? No, Romero keeps the position. Stewart still down the inside. A little bit of contact there between both of the drivers, as Romero doesn't have any front wing plates left anymore. Oh, look at that move from Benny Buno. Some big balls there by the McLaren driver, as Magic Poop Cannon finds himself in a difficult position. He's going to be sliding all over the place, trying to find a way around Romero, and he manages to find that. Benny Buno now doesn't have the DRS. He's going to get overtaken by 2 drivers at the same time. Here comes Romero. Back onto the racing line goes Benny Buno. Romero had to brake a little bit earlier because he didn't think that Benny Buno would come back on that racing line. And here comes the Swedish driver into the pit lane. And that's going to be just in time. No 10-second time penalty for Benny Buno for speeding in the pit lane. As right now things seem to be less interesting with Maggot in the lead of the race still. And Hackett in a battle with Evan, but also Brandon trying to find his way around the Red Bull driver. Evan has shown some decent racing in the last Grand Prix. It was his first Grand Prix, and today once again a top 3 position for the Red Bull driver. And let's see whether he's going to be able to keep that position. Magic Poop Cannon has crashed in Sector 2, coming into Sector 2, as he gets a 10-second time penalty after a severe collision with Kenji. And also Kenji has had a decent start of the Grand Prix, 2 positions gained, but that's mainly because Magic and Romero dropped many positions. Brandon struggling to find a way around Evan as he's coming down the straight right now. Mr. Miyagi is bringing Barry Bogarowski. I'm always calling him Baggy Bogarowski or something like that. I don't know. Here comes Evan down the straight. Oh, he's losing a position to Brandon, as he didn't seem to have DRS on the Williams driver. Or he decided not to use any, as those tires will be wearing out even further if the drivers are closer to a driver ahead of him. Barry not necessarily looking to make an overtake either, as Mr. Miyagi outbraked himself, lock up the tires, but Barry shot through the corner as well, a little bit too deep into the corner for the Williams drivers. That might have caused him to be a little further behind Mr. Miyagi than he wanted to, as Mr. Miyagi definitely chooses better lines than Barry Bogarowski. Look at that And now Mr. Miyagi will have the advantage down the straight. Look at how much time he's gained here after a good exit out of turn 8. And 2 drivers already have a penalty, 1 being Mr. Miyagi and 2 being Stewart. And now Magic Boop Cannon with that 10-second time penalty. He will be serving that throughout the pit stop. As Stewart finds his way past the McLaren driver. And now once again Benny Buno trying to catch up to his very own teammate. As I'm pretty sure Benny Buno is still very happy with the position he and his teammate are in. As he now gets 3-second time penalty. That is something he wanted to avoid here. Especially starting from the back of the grid as Brandon and Hackett now switch positions. That will be for a position 2 as the Red Bull driver has to watch out. Almost went into the back of Hackett there. Maggot is even further away right now, going into lap 7 out of the 29. What will Hackett be doing? Is he going to go down the inside? No, backs out of it. Although Brandon with a little shot through. Maybe a switchback from Hackett. It's going to be a multiple corner switchback. That would be absolutely amazing, but he doesn't have the speed to carry out an overtake. As the drivers are trying to keep their position, but also try to keep it clean, because this is a decent position you find yourself in, especially drivers like Brandon want to score as many points as possible, but don't want to lose any points either. So they're going to let drivers like Hackett and Evan just go past whenever they can. I don't think Brandon will defend this position either, because he can't afford to lose any points compared to Benny Buno, especially in a race like this where Benny used his joker and will be able to use double points. Then on the other hand, Benny Buno is only in P8. Hammers UK has let his teammate go through. 2.8 seconds behind Benny Buno is Hammers UK. As we're going down the straight, who will be able to make an overtake? It might be Benny Buno, right up that ass of Stewart. And these two have been the drivers who didn't qualify in this qualifying session. As Benny Buno is too far behind right now. Drained all of his ERS already. Look at that. Trying to gain even more, but it won't be enough. DRS wide open. Stewart, who has been using ERS as well. And both drivers will definitely be putting up a show here for us tonight, as they need to score maximum points when their points are kind of double. And right now they're finding themselves in a difficult position. 6 seconds behind Barry Bogarowski, and that is a big chunk of time that they're going to have to gain here tonight in Miami. Stewart taking a wider line. Benny Buno choosing a tighter line going into turn 3 there. As both drivers still on the medium tires. I want to see who is on the hard tires. Stewart actually is on the hard tires. So he's going to be looking at a decent position at the end of the Grand Prix. He's holding up Stewart. He's holding up Benny Buno, who is on the faster tires. So it's looking like Stewart has got a lot of pace here in Miami tonight. Let's see whether Benny Buno can make an overtake. Is he going to go around the outside? Yes, almost touches the wall. Look at that excellence from Benny Buno. Just keeps it out of the wall. And what a race he is having already. These two are going to make it too difficult for each other to get closer to Barry Bogarowski. Although the gap has shrunken from 6.6 to 5.8 already. The top 5 is having a battle with each other as well. Mr. Miyagi manages to catch up. A lot of pace still in these medium tires for the Greek driver. Stewart now again past Benny Buno in P7 and P8. Both drivers having a back and forward battle with each other throughout the whole race already. Zedovol and Kenji having a battle as well, as there is a group of 4 drivers trying to make something out of this not so great position. Only 2 drivers out of these 4 are going to be scoring points, which right now is going to be Hammers UK and Zedovol. But I'm pretty sure drivers like Kenji and Magic Boop Cannon, who actually showed that they have pace during the qualifying, actually want to score some points here in Miami. There's a driver who crashed. It's going to be Romero. And the first safety car is out on track. Lap 9 out of the 29. And will this shake up the strategies? I'm pretty sure it will be shaken up, as the medium tire runners might be able to go for the hard tires to finish off the race on those hard tires. Or maybe a medium soft strategy could be doing wonders. I wouldn't suggest drivers to go onto the soft tires if I'm being honest. I don't think the soft tires are great with a Grand Prix like Miami. So make sure you don't choose the soft tires here because your tires will be gone after 4 laps. And that is exactly what you don't want to have in the S's, because then you're just going to lose your car without anything you can do. The Ferrari driver is not coming into the pits. And what are the others doing? Maggot is going to be the first one. He will set an example, and he's coming into the pits, going onto the hard tires most likely. Is anyone else coming into the pits? So is Brandon, so is the Red Bull driver, so is Hackett. And it's Stewart, the only driver in the top 7 on the hard tires. He's coming in as well. That is a big risk for Stewart. I'm afraid that... Oh, and he gets the 10-second time penalty on top of it. I saw it coming from miles away. That he came into the pits too fast, and the Red Bull driver just got put back a little bit there because the Alpine driver came into the pit lane as he's got a broken front wing as well. Stewart had a lot of pace in that car. A broken front wing, hard tires. He's just been phenomenal here tonight in Miami. As he only drops back to P9, Benny Buno did jump him because of that front wing change, but it won't be too much of a struggle for Stewart to get past Benny Buno, especially being on the medium tires. Benny Buno, who still has that 3-second time penalty. Stewart has 13 in total. Magic Poop Cannon served his 10-second time penalty under the pit lane, so under the safety car, so he won't be able to get that 10-second time penalty subtracted. In the back you can see the Hard Rock Cafe, as I said before, the Hard Rock Stadium as well. It didn't seem like a football stadium. It seemed like a baseball stadium, if I'm being honest. Is it a baseball stadium? I'm gonna have a look at that. The Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. I think it is a football stadium, but Hard Rock Stadium here. Hard Rock Stadium. Let me have a quick look. Who plays in the Hard Rock Stadium? Oh yeah, it is American football stadium. The Miami Gardens is what it's called, and that is lovely. I don't watch American football myself. I do find some pleasure in watching baseball. Unfortunately, those matches are always in the middle of the night, so I won't be able to watch any. But if any of you guys are watching American football in the middle of the night, or, I mean, a replay or something like that, make sure to let me know in the channel what teams you guys like the most. I like the American Eagles and the New Orleans Saints as well, as I've just been to New Orleans a couple of weeks ago. So I bought myself a little cap and, you know, been cheering for the New Orleans Saints. But yeah, I know they aren't doing exactly great, but, you know, it is what it is, right? I'm just gonna take a quick sip of water, so I will be right back with you guys. I have no idea what Kenji and Hammers UK are doing, but they're switching positions quicker than, well, I don't have anything against that. They're switching positions faster than, I was given it a second try. I didn't even find anything then. Do I have a third try? Nah, I don't know. Tire-wise, we're looking at hard tires for almost everyone except for Stewart and Zedoval, of course. Zedoval apparently didn't come into the pit, so he stays on those hard tires. So we're only going to be having one driver on the medium tires throughout the later stage or the middle stage of this Grand Prix. One of the drivers is going to be Stewart. The other one who still has to come into the pits is Zedoval. And in my opinion, that's a little bit better of a strategy by the Swedish driver, because Stewart is going to have to stretch these mediums for 20 laps. It's not possible, I'm afraid. It's not possible. The safety car is coming in this lap as well, so you can see everyone weaving their tires to get some heat in those tires. And let's see what they can do going into the last corner of this lap 11. And when is Maggot gonna go? The Mercedes driver almost going into the back of him. When is Maggot gonna go? When is Maggot gonna go? Weaving the tires, and it's going right now. Did Brandon get caught off guard? Apparently he did a little bit. 4/10 in between the drivers. Here they go, coming down the straight. Brandon is to defend the inside line. Hackett's weaving together with him. As it appears like nobody is able to make a move going into turn 1. And that is what I love about rolling starts. Nobody is able to make a move, and it's not as chaotic as it usually is during a starting procedure of a race. As Hammers UK now gets B10 from Kenji. It was quick and easy for the British driver. As Stewart is pressuring the McLaren driver as well. And this is some good news for Benny Buno and Stewart. They find themselves really far back from Barry Bogarowski. And look at Benny Buno now. He's going to shove it down the inside. Here comes the McLaren driver. Is he going to keep the position? He has the outside line in turn 10. Not necessarily a great position to be in. Oh, and look at Stewart benefiting from that mistake of Barry Bogarowski. Shoves it around the outside and keeps the position. Barry drops back 2 positions. Not a great start for the Dutch driver, who is on the hard tires though, so nothing can be blamed. And somebody is going into the wall there. Was that a Haas driver? It appears to be so. Kenji lost control coming out of the penultimate corner, and the Red Bull driver makes that overtake as well. Let's go back to the front of the pack as Maggot now had a lead of about 2.5 seconds. The Mercedes driver is back in it again, up that tail of Maggot. And this is going to be a two-way battle. I can see that coming from miles away. Here comes Brandon down the inside. No, backside of it. Yes, turn 1 is a very tricky one to shove it down the inside. During a starting procedure of a race, it works, but in a rolling start or when they're racing, it's really difficult. You really need the DRS to be able to do that. Here comes Evan on the tail of Mr. Miyagi. And also Stewart and Benny Buno are pressuring the both of them. 3 seconds for Miyagi, 3 seconds for Benny Buno, 13 seconds for Stewart. So he's going to have to serve those 10 seconds in the pit next time. And according to a driver in the chat, Pipke, he says maybe he's going on a soft at the end of the race. And that could be the case as well. Here comes Evan down the inside of Mr. Miyagi, and he's going to keep the position. Has the outside line around turn 10. As I said multiple times, it's not a great position to be in. And that's what I mean. Mr. Miyagi retook that position as Evan was not past the Aston Martin driver yet going into turn 10. And that's where you really need to be. You need to be ahead so that you can defend that inside line again. And then hopefully you're going to keep the position coming down the straight, because plenty of these guys are going to be having DRS, including Brandon, who's now taking the lead of the race. Back onto the racing line goes the Mercedes driver. Back on board with Hackett though, as he's been able to manage. Well, he's been able to keep the position. Stewart has had a crash. Stewart drops back to P14. What happened to the LP driver? And he is gonna be having no damage. That is quite surprising. But he most likely had an incident with another driver. Was it Benny Buno? Potentially, as the both of them have been having some scrambles every now and then in this race. Evan on the tail of Mr. Miyagi. Let's go on board with both of them. As I think Zedeval, once again, a decent position. And is he, like his teammate, going to fuck it up? I'm afraid he will. As Mr. Miyagi is pushing the tail of the Ferrari driver, trying to give him a little bit of a bump going down the straight. And we saw somebody else do it in another league, and it quite worked. Zedeval defending the inside line. Oh, goes a little bit too deep. Can Miyagi benefit from that? And I think it will be. Around the outside goes Miyagi. Has the inside line right now. What a move from Miyagi after a mistake from the Swedish driver. Oh, by the way, I'm not saying that Zedeval is a bad driver, by the way. Zedeval, if you're listening, you're a great driver. You've got a lot of pace, but just a little bit inconsistent. So that's why I said, you know, he's not going to make it till the end of the race or something like that. I don't even know what I said. It just jumps out of my mouth. Here comes Evan. Into the top 4 he goes. Zedeval was looking for a gap as well around the outside. He was trying to tail the Red Bull driver, but Mr. Miyagi shut the door on that racing line, and Barry Bogarowski around the outside of Hammers UK at the moment. Here, the both of them come down the straight. It will be the Williams driver keeping the position. Beautifully done. Oh, look at Hammer. Not giving up. Hammers UK is not giving up, but the Williams driver keeps the position. Broke a little bit later and defended the position perfectly. Hammers UK still not done though. He's just saying, you know, you're not gonna get rid of me yet. Oh, look at Romero. A little bit too excited going into a turn of 5 or 6 there. Coming out of turn 7. Oh, it will be a decent position for Romero to be in. DR is wide open as Evan now loses a position. Hackett into the lead of the race as well. 3 drivers currently still battling for that race win, and this reminds me of the Piston Cup. Whenever Jake Hicks, that blue guy, and Lightning McQueen were battling with each other. Pipka, I know you're listening. Who is who? Who is Jake Hicks? Who is that blue guy? And who is Lightning McQueen? I don't know, but Hackett reminds me of that blue guy. Isn't he a little bit older, Hackett? Yeah, I think he is. He's got a lot of experience. Here comes Brandon on the inside. And he keeps the position. I mean, he goes back into the lead of the race. He lost it earlier this lap as Hackett is not done with him yet. Hackett is not done. Goes back into the slipstream. 1 lap down. 14 left in this Grand Prix as Evan is now catching up to these 3. 1.6 seconds at the moment, and he's bringing Miyagi with him. Although Miyagi does have a 3-second time penalty, so not too much of a threat to these 4. But the gap is shrinking. There's a yellow flag in sector 1. That's going to be Zetterval. As I said, Zetterval. Not very consistent going into races like these, but he's also on the older tires, so he might have to come into the pits. Or did he come into the pits? That might have been in a... No. He went on... He's still on the hard tires, so he couldn't have gone from hards to hards. Hammers UK, maybe? No, not close enough. Maybe Romero. Maybe Kenji. Look at that, Kenji. Backs out of it again. Hammers UK a little bit too deep into that corner. Benny Buno is actually scoring a decent amount of points right now. He just needs to hope that Brandon is going to fuck up, and then he's going to be gaining a lot of points on Brandon there. The only thing he can do is get into the top 5, score an amazing amount of points, then use the Joker again next week in Japan, and then, you know, win that Grand Prix. I mean, yeah, because otherwise he's not going to win the season, I'm afraid. He's 49 points behind Brandon. If Brandon gets a decent result today, I'm afraid it's going to be over for Benny Buno. Colin in the chat says, Stuart better not do this tomorrow, laughing my ass off. And another penalty for Romero, and that's going to be his first penalty, I'm afraid. Stuart did not come into the pits. He doesn't have a broken front wing, so he won't have to switch that front wing either. Let's go on board with Maggot here. Can he make it difficult for the Mercedes driver? Brandon has been dominating throughout the season. A decent amount of points for the Mercedes driver in the season already. And we still have 2 more races to go, this one included. And I feel like, you know, sometimes it's Maggot into the top 3. Sometimes it's Benny Buno. Sometimes it's another driver like Gunnar or Ragged. Ragged? Is that his name? I don't know. But Brandon is always in the top 3. He's always there. He's always the one making it difficult for the other drivers to get the race win. And he's doing the exact same thing here tonight. Hackett not able to get a race win because of Brandon. Maggot might not be able to get a race win because of Brandon. And he's just such a powerful asset here in Delta T Racing, and he's always there. He's always so consistent, not necessarily fucking it up, but he's just making it difficult. Here he goes once again down the inside. Is he gonna keep the position? Apparently he's not, because the Alpine driver... Oh, and there's damage. There's damage for Brandon. Does he have a front plate missing? Oh, Hackett caught up. What a mistake by Maggot. Just cut across the line, and I'm afraid that Brandon is gotten some wing damage there. Let's see if he's got some visual damage. Apparently not. Hackett got past Evan again. Evan a little bit impatient here, coming through turn 6 into turn 7 into turn 8. And then we've got turn 9 coming up. Turn 10, one of the better corners to make an overtake in, and that's where we're going to be seeing Evan go for it. Although went a little bit too deep into the corner. I think he even tried to not go into the back of Hackett there. Not necessarily trying to make the corner, just not trying to go into the back of Hackett, because this is the result Hackett could have dreamed of. I'm gonna have a look at the results right now. So Hackett is currently in where is he? Oh, in P11, and he hasn't been on the podium this season. He's had 2 P4s, so hopefully it's not going to be happening again this season, this race. I'm wishing him the best. Hackett, get that podium for me, buddy. He just needs to hope for a penalty for the other drivers. 10 more laps to go. Let's go on board with Hammers UK as well. Here comes Kenji around the outside. Oh, Hammers UK. What a switchback from Kenji. Does he keep the position? Apparently he does. Goes onto the curb to keep the position. And Hammers UK a little bit too enthusiastic going into turn 1. Went a little bit deeper. And I think Kenji knew that Hammers UK was trying something. And he took advantage of the McLaren driver there. Let's go on board with Evan again. Down the straight he goes. The ear is wide open for the Red Bull driver. But it won't be enough, I'm afraid, either. And I thought this was going to be a race where there were going to be more overtakes and such, but apparently drivers really patient, really trying to make an overtake down the straight with the use of DRS, and not necessarily taking any risks going into corners like turn 9, turn 10, maybe even the chicane. We saw a couple of here already, just not plenty. We haven't seen crazy overtakes like overtakes in turn 3 or 4, switchback into turn 6. Usually we do tend to see an overtake there. We do tend to see a crash every now and then, but today it's been a really relaxing race. You see these guys in the top 5 haven't been making any overtakes in the last 2 laps. And that is something you do want to avoid as a commentator, because otherwise there's nothing to talk about. But Zedderval with a 10-second time penalty as well for speeding in the pit lane. And these 10-second time penalties are doing the drivers dirty, because Zedderval now drops back to P13. Stewart came into the pits as well, went into another set of medium tires, and so did Zedderval. He served his 10-second time penalty, but Stewart has to start again where he started in the beginning of the Grand Prix. He was somewhere around P7, P6, dropped back to P14 where he started this Grand Prix. So it's going to be a frustrating race for the Alpine driver. Definitely not a race he thought would end like this, but yeah, sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not, as Evan goes into the back of the Williams driver there. Oh, Megan lost it! Megan lost it! Oh no, Megan lost it, and this is going to make things very, very interesting for the Williams driver as well as Evan. And maybe Mr. Miyagi is taking a shot at that podium position. Evan, who's been outbreaking himself quite some time, as Mr. Miyagi is now at the tail of the Red Bull driver. Megan will most likely come into the pits, if I'm not mistaken. He's got a broken front wing, and that is exactly what he's going to be doing. And a 10-second time penalty on top of that. The Alpine team has been doomed by the 10-second time penalties here tonight in Miami. It might be the car, and a 3-second time penalty on top of that for Stewart, so he's got 6 seconds in total. It's not looking great for Alpine right now. Megan is also going to drop back to P12, P13 maybe, as Hammers UK is making up a position on Romero. Let's have a quick analysis of the position switches. Two positions gained for Brandon. Hackett is still in the same position he was in before. And now we've got Evan in P3. Mr. Miyagi in P4. Gained 2 positions so far. Benny Buno gained 8, so this is a decent position to be in. Right now, he's scoring 20 points in total. Of course, penalties are not included. So it could be that he's going to be gaining more or less points, as he needs to get about 4 seconds in the next 4 laps to be able to get back to Miyagi and that group. Here comes Evan, down the straight he goes, into the inside, that doesn't even make sense. Down the inside goes Evan as he takes that position from Hackett. I don't think Hackett necessarily cares, because Miyagi and Benny Buno both have penalties, so even if Miyagi makes that overtake, I think Hackett will still get the podium position. That would be his first podium in this season. So make sure you're cheering on the Williams driver as much as I am. As he's also the lobby host, putting a lot of time and effort into organizing all of this and getting everyone in the league, getting everyone in the race, and trying to have the most drivers participating in this race, because it wouldn't be for, I mean, how do you say that? It wouldn't be... so there weren't that many drivers if it wouldn't be for Hackett and also Barry Bogorowski, of course. Barry currently in P6 as well. Look at that position for Barry. That might be the best position he's been in, and that is all because of the qualifying. It's all because of the qualifying. Let me have a quick look. Barry's best result is a P6. Oh, he is in a P6. He had two P6s at the beginning of the Grand Prix. He had the DNF in Mexico. United States, he had a P6. Austria, he had a P6. Then he had a P8, a P9, a P11, and a P12. He didn't participate in 3 races, which were Italy, United States, and then Abu Dhabi, another United States Grand Prix. I can't tell you for sure which one is which. But it might be Las Vegas, because that Grand Prix is a pain in the ass, and I definitely understand why drivers wouldn't participate in that. Evan is now taking the lead of this Grand Prix, and he's going to try and keep Brandon behind him for as long as possible. The winner of the Grand Prix gets 25 points. Brandon will be getting 18 points, so Benny Buno makes 2 points. Good on the Mercedes driver. It's negative enough. He's 49 seconds behind, so maybe Hackett or Miyagi are going to have to do a kamikaze attack on Brandon, but they're too far behind at the moment, as Heck dropped about a second on the Mercedes driver. Miyagi looking to make a move as well. Look at that. Here he comes. Down the inside goes Miyagi. And up into the top 3 of this Grand Prix. All Hackett has to do right now is keep it on the tail of the Greek driver. I think 3 seconds within 6 laps is a little bit too much of a challenge for Mr. Miyagi. But you never know. You never know. Drivers like Mr. Miyagi are sometimes showing great pace, but sometimes also show some inconsistency. Magic Boop Cannon now up a position, up into P9 he goes. And Hackett hasn't recovered yet. Here comes Brandon down the straight. As he goes down the inside, side by side they go. Evan not necessarily giving up, and this is not a position you want to be in. Well, let's see whether Evan is going to be the one crashing out Brandon and giving Benny Buno a decent position to be in. Evan, oh, look at that. Brandon is positioning his car perfectly, because coming out of that turn 1, if you're around the outside, you're having the inside line in turn 2, and you can turn in easier, quicker. You can place your car in the position you want it to be in, and the driver behind you actually cannot do anything about that, because you're the driver ahead of them. They're going to have to change their racing line or touch the brakes whenever you're crossing cutting across the line. So it's really something to think about when choosing the inside line in turn 1. You've got the outside line in turn 2, and then you've got the inside line again in turn 3. So you just need to hold up in turn 2 to be able to make that overtake in turn 3. But that's what makes Miami so difficult to cope with, because you got to do a lot of thinking as well. Here DRS wide open, but who's going to choose the inside line? Who's going to choose the outside line? Apparently, Barry Bogorowski already got overtaken coming into turn 9. But look, you've got the inside line right now, but you will have the outside line coming in turn 11 and turn 12. You cannot shove it down the inside in the chicane, because you're going to just get shot up in the air. So You just got to do some thinking here, and that's exactly why Miami is a very tiring track. It's very tiring for the mind, and as well for a commentator like me, because I got to do a lot of talking, and I got to do a lot of explaining, and just make sure you guys understand what of a difficult track this is. Many of you guys have raced here already. I'm pretty sure there's not going to be any TikTokers or, I don't know, not necessarily women, because women also like Formula 1, but people who are not interested in F1 being here watching F1 races. So Hackett's still on the tail of Mr. Miyagi, who's still got that penalty. This is all Hackett has to do right now. Oh, and he loses the car. Now he needs to push a little bit more, and it might be the tires done for already. Make sure you don't push it too much, Hackett. He's got a 1.3 second gap to Mr. Miyagi. He needs to keep it to 3 seconds, within 3 seconds, and it has already been bumped back to 1.5, so he's got to watch out. Hackett, does he want to stay in P4? Does he want to get P3 but risk losing P4? Does he want to do something else? I don't know. Well, potentially he wants to win this race, but that's going to be too much of a challenge. Mr. Miyagi is struggling as well. The hard tires are wearing out for these lads as we're heading in lap 26 out of the 29. And Brandon has taken a big lead already. Go look at that. Evan currently 1.3 seconds behind Brandon, and I think he's going to push even more. Brandon, who's really well at tire management. And Benny Bruno now gaining a bit of time as well. Hammers UK in a battle with Magic Poop Cannon as well. Both drivers being in the middle of nowhere, but Romero is trying to catch up to the both of them. Not necessarily a threat, as he's got a penalty around his back already. Well, how do you say that? Hanging above his head? I think that might be a perfect phrase to use there. Hammers UK looking to make an overtake, but it has not been easy. Magic Poop Cannon, who's still in the same position as where he started in. So is Hammers UK, by the way, but I think it was a good idea for Hammers UK to let through his teammate, as he now gets a track warning for coming across the track there, going off track. As Evan and Miyagi are now switching positions as well. This is really interesting, because this could give an opportunity to Hackett as well to get P2. After all, he just needs to gain a little bit of time on the Red Bull driver in order to get that DRS, as Mr. Miyagi is now pushing, trying to get back to Brandon as well. All drivers currently on the hard tires. It's just a matter of who has got the freshest. And if this battling keeps going on, I think it might be Brandon at the end of the race. We're heading in lap 27 out of the 29. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water before we're heading into the later stages of this race. And it's going to get exciting. We don't know who's going to score a podium position yet. Will it be Miyagi? Will it be Hackett? As Hackett is now 1.2 seconds behind the Greek driver. And I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves in the stream. I did a little bit of tweaking on my microphone, so hopefully you guys don't mind too much. In my opinion, it sounds a little bit better. My voice is sounding a little bit, how do you say that? A little bit clearer, if that makes sense. But the engines are still roaring here in Miami. A little lockup there from Mr. Miyagi, but he recovers quite fine. The Greek driver is, yeah, not necessarily pushing, but kind of trying to get away from Hackett. It's been a great race for these guys. Not too many incidents, I'm afraid. As Romero's still on those 18-lap-old medium tires. I don't even understand how he can last those mediums for so many laps. As we're heading into lap 28 out of the 29. And he's still cruising around on the tail of Hammers UK. Lost a bit of time though, as I think the medium tires are done for. Megan and Stewart on the freshest tires together with Zedoval, but it will get them nowhere. Maybe it will get Megan the top 10 position. penalty-wise. I'm afraid he's still got that 10-second time penalty that he will not be able to serve or get removed. So he's going to drop back to P11, maybe even P12 if Skipper catches up. But chances of that happening is quite unlikely. Let's go back on board with Hackett here as he's the main character to look at. Evan is not going to be catching up to Brandon, I'm afraid, as we're heading into the penultimate lap of this Miami Grand Prix. Benny Buno is too far back as well. Maggot now with an overtake on Romero, but that will be a position gain, but a position lost again at the end of the Grand Prix. And Zetterval coming into the pits. He is going to retire from the session, or is he going to try and get the fastest lap on the board? It might be the second option as he didn't retire yet. So that means he's going to finish off the race and try to get that fastest lap. Who's got the fastest lap right now? Let me have a look here for you guys. The fastest lap is going to Stewart. But if I'm not mistaken, drivers who are not finishing in the top 10 won't be able to receive that one extra point. As Hammers UK now gets a 3-second time penalty during his battle with Magic Poop Cannon. So this is a really unfortunate penalty for Hammers UK. He really needed those points for the McLaren team as well. Skipper with a 3-second time penalty. It appears like the drivers are now starting to push the limits, trying to find the limits of the track, the limits of their cars, and every now and then a little penalty is attached to that. And obviously not great in a Grand Prix where everyone is within 3 seconds of each other. And what a race it has been. I don't see any position changes anymore in the top 5, top 6, top 7. Neither in the top 8, neither in the top 9. Everyone is outside 1 second of each other. Mr. Miyagi maybe, but he's got that 3 seconds still next to his name, so he's going to have to serve that after the race. Gets dropped back another position. Hackett is now losing a bit of time, though. Maybe Mr. Miyagi can push a little further, trying to get away from Hackett there. 1.5 seconds. He needs to gain 1.5 seconds. Oh, and he gets another 3-second time penalty. That will do... Oh, that will do him dirty, because I think Benny Buno might be able to catch up here. Let's see where he's going to be at the end of this Grand Prix. Mr. Miyagi needs 3 seconds on Benny Buno. Does he have those? Right now, it's about 3.5, 3.6, and especially with the DRS here down the straight, he's going to be able to receive those. Oh, but he backs out again. He backs out again. Maybe he doesn't know that he's 3 seconds, or that he needs 3 seconds on Benny Buno. How much did he lose with that maneuver? Coming down the straight goes Brandon. Gets the race win as Benny Buno is 3.3 seconds behind. He's going to be placed in P5. Kenji with a 6th position. He's only 5 tenths away from Benny Buno, so a close finish there within the top 6. So you might want to go on board with Maggot. Drops back to P11, I'm afraid. Skipper got a final 3-second time penalty. Zetterval has been unlucky once again. Romero as well. Maggot as well. Stewart as well, as I think McLaren did a got decent points here for the team. Benny Buno, who started at the back of the Grand Prix. At the back of the Grand Prix, doesn't even make sense. At the back of the starting grid, as he was hoping to gain more points than he did today. Scored a total of 20. As P5 receives 10 points. Obviously, those points are going to be kind of double. Then we've got Mr. Miyagi in P4. What a race he has had as well. Kept it consistent. Unfortunately, the penalties pushed him off the podium. And then Hackett with his first podium. What a race he has had as well. Congratulations to you, Hackett. Evan with a decent result here as well. Again, after a decent race in Azerbaijan last week. And then another race win for Brandon. That will be his 3rd or his 4th this season. Benny Buno being driver of the day. I couldn't agree with you more there. As Brandon apparently has 2 race wins already. So this is going to be his 3rd and his 7th podium. The total amount of points for Brandon going into the last race of the season is 195. And Benny Buno has got 141. So let me do the calculations. He is not going to make it, I'm afraid. As told, well, the maximum amount of points is 50, which he can earn next week if he starts from the back of the grid as well. As 25 times 2 is 50, but he's 53 behind So we can deem Brandon driver of the day because he is a driver champion of season 11. Now that is pre-results, pre-penalties, pre-everything. But from what I've seen, Brandon is not going to be getting any penalties, and neither is he going to be dropping any positions. So from those results, he is going to get driver of the championship and maybe also constructors, because P2 was Kick Sauber, and they're all the way at the back of the grid. I mean, they didn't score any points, so basically all the way at the back of the grid, because they're not scoring any points, but they weren't present today. I'm going to finish off the live stream here, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it was a pleasant experience for you, as apparently I wasn't able to look at the results. That is always lovely. My apologies. No idea why that was. The game is glitched. The game is a little bit fucked as well. But let's not get deeper into that. Guys, thank you very much. I will see you guys next week, and peace out. Bye-bye.